Welcome to Cosmic Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee or a delicious menu item while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Come by and say hello to Maui. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
Hi everyone, Daphne Lage here. Join Nita Lanning and me on the Ragin' to the Vlogs show, where we talk about everything, nothing, and all the bits in between. Looking for hour-long conversations about indie comics, social media marketing, and crowdfunding, with the occasional rant and story time? Head on over to the Ragin' 2 channel on YouTube, Mondays through Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern to join in the chat.
Hit the button.
It is 7 o'clock Central Time, 7:05. And Michael, I told you my StreamYard might be having issues. It was acting very sluggish. There's like I'd click on a video, click it again, and then it would go. I don't know what the deal was. It is connected to the YouTube, though. I can verify that. It's just
Okay.
I don't know. Microsoft is probably saying, "Hey, we're going to give you some new Windows stuff. We're not going to tell you. We're just going to start shoving it underneath you and slow you down." So, wow, how you been the last 2 weeks? Been a minute since I've seen you.
Oh yeah, I've been doing great. Just one thing, kind of talk about somebody who's probably feeling really, really great. In the last episode we talked about the guy who spent over like $518 million on a football, and the next day Tom Brady unretired.
Yes.
Think about how the guy he outbid feels. Woo!
Oh, dodged a bullet. Yeah, that's.
It probably feels like I did when I was up. This is something probably most of your viewers aren't familiar with. I was in the draft where the government can say, we're going to pick you up and we're going to throw you in this foreign meat grinder, and you got no say about it. And they put everybody's birth date in a big old global ball, had a real pretty girl in a bikini come out and pull the ping pong. And that was how your draft order was chosen. You probably never heard of that, had you? Of course, when you're that age, you're turning 18, you're watching like a hawk. And my number was 52. Every other year during the Vietnam War, the years leading up to that, they had taken the first 125 numbers. It was like, you're going to Vietnam, buddy. And that year, Nixon, not a lot of good said about Nixon, but he kind of saved my life because he reduced it to 50. They only took the first 50 numbers that year. So I feel like that guy, probably feels like about missing out on that to Tom Brady. Thought he was going to get it, but then he didn't.
Yeah. Never been so happy to lose something in my life, right?
Right, exactly.
Woody Muller, glad to see you out there in chat, buddy. appreciate you being here. We're going to talk. Well, I never know what I'm going to talk about except for one or two things, and then we just kind of wing it from there. But I will bring up one thing right away. Mike, Marvel Comics. Is the plan to get down to 0 readers, or to at least remove all the old readers in favor of this new batch? Because X-Men this week really stepped in it.
I didn't even read it. Yeah. So what did they do? I just shipped them out. I didn't even look at it. They lost
I get you, man. It's like, don't even bother reading them anymore. Just send them out.
Well,
so I guess
at one point I'd read every X-Men. Like I remember back before I had my stores, and you had to go to like every grocery store in town or every 7-Eleven, because no one place got all the books. That's why I later decided to open up a store where customers could do that and go one place. But I'm looking at a spinner rack, and I'm grabbing giant size X-Men off the rack, and then I'm grabbing number 94 off the rack. And this guy goes, "Man, what are you doing? You're wasting your money. I numbered 94 Marvel. That'll never be worth anything." I was like, "Well, I've read the giant size number 1. I liked it. And I just, I think it's a great story." He goes, "Oh, come on, man, you're wasting money. Shogun Warriors number 1. It's a Marvel number 1, guaranteed to be valuable." For a while, his logic worked, because in the price guide, that Shogun Warriors was $1 book, while my X-Men number 94 was just only a 30-cent book for quite a few years. But that's changed just a little bit in the decades after that.
Yeah, it's it appreciated in value as people appreciated the story.
So I read everyone up until the point where they're getting ready to do the Age of Apocalypse. So this is about like 20 years ago. And this is just going to be a pocket universe. I know where they're going with this. I'm just going to build on this. I had 2 stores at that time, so I had to really cut back on my reading because I just didn't have time like I used to. And so I'll just pick it back up when they get through this 1 year, because they stopped all the titles. Well, there's going to be a 1 year window, a bubble or whatever, and I'll pick it up when they're done with that. Never found my way back in.
Nope. It's if you break a habit for like 12 weeks, you broke it. You're out of the habit. Robert, glad to see you out there in the chat, son. Appreciate you being here.
What did they do?
So you know that the X-Men have like this their own X-Men's island. Krakoa or whatever. Yeah, something like that. And apparently they've developed the technology or whatever it is to resurrect people. So hey, if you die, no worry, you're coming back. Oh, and we've got, your memories are downloaded into something called, it's a paradise kind of thing. You've got a heaven. We don't call it that, they say, because it confuses people. Okay, so Exodus, I don't know him. I've barely heard the name, but I guess he's a mutant of some kind, is talking with some of the X-Men about what they've done there. And he says, and I quote, "The Nazarene Mutant," let that sink in.
Yeah.
"The Nazarene Mutant was remembered because he raised a couple people from the dead. You've exceeded that in the last 5 minutes."
So Jesus Christ was a mutant?
Yes. Not divine, not the Son of God, just a mutant.
So that means God's a mutant, I guess, huh?
Well, if he even exists in the Marvel universe now. Like the one above all is very disappointed with you, Marvel.
Let's throw some theology in there. No politics. We want to do something that nobody will mind. Let's do religion instead.
Yeah, that was the Kieran Gillen writing on that one. And I'm not, that's, people were talking about it this week. I don't know if it's gotten beyond the.
But is it good talk? That's the question.
No, it was not good talk. So, Woody, you're in the neighborhood here. I don't know where Neutron County is, but I will definitely find out. Of course, Mike's down there in the Little Rock area, and I'm up here in Eureka Springs. So, I finally went to my first comic convention 2 weeks ago. I think I got back here in time to talk about it that day. So I'm ready for another one.
Life is returning to normal.
Yes, it is. There were no masks. Well, there were some masks. You could choose to wear one.
Is
that something you think? Either. No, not the cosplay masks, the actual cough masks. Is that something you would consider getting into if because I know that September there's a Comic-Con coming up in Little Rock, and you had. I'm assuming you still have some back issue inventory. You ever consider going to one of those and trying to offload some?
Maybe sometime. Just right now, I'm not. I just don't have time. I've got so many other projects to try to keep up with. I'm kind of jammed. And plus, that'll be right in election season, so I'll be busy with upcoming election as city councilman, and so yeah, I've got a pretty busy schedule this year.
I can imagine. No term limits on city council, huh?
Nope.
Just keep cycling through it. Okay. That's the way to do it, really, in my opinion. I know we complain about term limits all the time. Oh, that guy's been there for years. Time to get him out. I'm like, he's not your guy. It's like, your guy's been there for dozens of years too. Vote him out. Well, I like him.
Yep. There you go.
There you go. We've got term limits. It's called an election. You don't like the guy, vote for the other one.
And I will run this campaign like I did the last one, where I didn't spend a dime, and everybody had me picked to lose like 80 to 20. Me getting a 20 because I did nothing. I spent no money, no advertising. That's when I still had both my stores. I had no time to even do any of the events. I did go to the debates, which that's a whole nother story in itself. But that's the only really promotional things I did for it. But what I did differently is I was on the web. And I set up a web page, and talked about all the stuff and this and that, and kept active that way. So I believe there's a new paradigm, because used to, if you weren't out there, at all the events, and you had all these yard signs. My opponent had like 3,000 yard signs. I think I had 3, and only if somebody asked me for it. Okay, well, here you go. But I just I didn't do the traditional type of campaign. That's why they had me picked to lose, by a landslide by like 60%. Well, I won by 8%. So managed to get the message out there a different way than the traditional way. And really, it's the paradigm has changed. It's kind of like the paradigm on how I run my store has changed. Because back when I first opened in 82, I had to do the timing based on what's the latest I could get in the phone book. And then, of course, it took several months for that to publish, because you basically didn't exist until you were in the yellow pages back then. That's how everybody found you. Now, if you're spending money on a Yellow Pages ad, you may as well whiz it outside, because you're just whizzing it away. I mean, it does you nothing. And everything's on the internet now, so they find you other ways now. Though Google's trying to, oh, no, you got to go through our website that we set up for you. And, they'll try to direct people away from your website and this and that. So, they'll try to put that barrier back up there again, where, you got to pay for people to find you. But, that paradigm has changed. And that's kind of what I did with my election campaign. And speaking of paradigm,
yes,
my book, Our Toby Paradigm, is in its last few days on Kickstarter. This is where it was serialized in Kersoba magazine. These two covers will be different covers. This one right here is going to be the hardcover. This one is the trade paperback. And there'll also be a third cover that has not been published before by Dark Philly, with art by Raven Monroe. That's exclusive on the Kickstarter. If you don't buy it, you don't get it.
I know Raven. She's been on our show before. She's a sweetheart. So I would like to get her back on again when she does the next Cookies and Scream book.
So yeah, it's just amazing how things change. And so I spent no money. And when everybody, when I went down to file at the city or the county clerk about, you have to say how much money you spent and all the money you took in, where it all went. And I'm like, okay, I accepted no donations and I spent no money. And they looked at this like, what in the world? And I said, have you ever seen anything like that before? And they said, well, once, a long time ago. And I said, well, how did he do? Oh, we don't think he did very well. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'll go out there and I'll get my signatures, and I'll just do it online. But, to me, it makes no sense to buy a job.
No, because you can reach everybody with email and social media presence and everything. I mean,
and if
there's
like the job I've been doing, then they can vote me out. That's their choice, and I'll abide by it. I won't have a problem with that, because believe me, it doesn't pay very well for the work and time you put into it. And I said, I've got other things I should probably be working on instead. But I'm
just free up your time for more books.
Right, exactly. But it's a job that it's one of those things. It's kind of like Bruce Willis in Armageddon. Well, I just don't trust anybody else to do it. That's why I'm going up there on that big old rock.
Yeah, exactly. The first day you're out of office will be the day that Entergy comes and puts power poles up outside your house on your easement.
Yeah,
and charges you for them.
Yeah, I can't talk about that right now. The public.
I know.
That's a gag order because we're the first city council to ever be sued by Entergy because we said no. They don't like that.
Well, yeah, they could stand some people saying no to them now and then.
Yes, they could.
These power companies get too much power, no pun intended. So, but yeah, that was the big thing I saw this week in comics was just that social ineptness from Marvel, where they just like, let's just piss off everybody.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because used to the rules were is you don't mess with religion, you don't mess with politics, and you don't mess with. Nobody wants to know what somebody else's sexual preferences are. Well, now they put all three of those in the comics. Now that story, we don't have room for that.
Yeah, well, yeah, and we can see how well it's selling.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing to me because obviously I've been a collector since back in the '60s. I've been reading comics, and I've been a retailer for almost 40 years now. And actually, my 40th anniversary is coming up in a few months. And the comic art is better than it's probably ever been. The content, on the other hand, they're probably well written. They just don't connect with readers. I mean, they're not fun anymore. They're not taking you on an adventure. They're not, making you, I want to know what happens next. You're like, I don't care. It's like I've always talked about expiration of expectation. Storylines are too drug out, and this and that, and it just don't connect.
Yeah,
and it's hard to find your way in. It's kind of like me with the X-Men. I tried many times to start picking up X-Men again. It's like, I don't know who this character is, and there's nothing in here that makes me want to know. I mean, you got to already know about him to be able to read this, and it just wasn't there. There was no entry level stories. Not enough one shots to say, as somebody says, we're too sober here. Yeah,
I'm gonna fix that, Pale Rider. I'm gonna get right on it.
I've still got beer in my refrigerator from the Super Bowl, the one the Chiefs won.
You don't drink that.
Yeah, I think it's a little out of date there. Probably about as flat as a tire after running across a bunch of nails. But it's just it just lose you as a reader, and they just don't connect anymore. And I know they're writing kind of more for the graphic novel, but it's like when I was doing my Wall Stars comics, I tried to make each one a self-contained story, but then when you piece them all together, you got a larger structure, and it all came together.
Yeah, well, that's the way comics used to be written. Was you could pick up anything. If it was a two-parter, that was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
More story than one book could handle, or they would say, hey, this story's so big that this issue is going to be a 40-page double spectacular issue.
Uh-huh.
They wouldn't split it.
I'm going through working where I'm writing reviews of all the comics ever made for Robert E. Howard, because I did that on the Edgar Rice Burroughs art chronology. Well, now I'm doing that on the Robert E. Howard chronology. And of course, he switched publishers a lot more. And the same thing with Tarzan. When they switch publisher, we want to do the adaptation. Now it's our version. So you read the same story adapted several ways, and sometimes you just can't hardly tell any difference. Other times it's like, wow, that wasn't an improvement at all. They just tried to expand it up and just went in different directions. And the Chiefs won, but I saw your poster down there. The Chiefs won, but that was a couple of years back. They didn't defend their title.
It was 1977.
Yeah, and so it hasn't been in my refrigerator since 1969 when they won the championship. This is the second time they won it. They only do it every 50 years, it seems like. But it's just they just lose you, and you got to give people a good story, beginning, a middle, and an end in each issue to make it accessible. I remember people really hated on Jim Shooter, but man, when he was running the Marvel, they were 2/3 of the marketplace because they really connected because he had a philosophy: treat every issue like it's somebody's first issue, and they would get readers. They did really well.
Would. And with people dropping out, and you're seeing this as well. You're doing mail order right now. People are dropping out of the long-term stories because the stories have walked away from the readers. Doing it mail order and not having that browsing capability that you had with brick and mortar. Do you worry that there's a point where you're not going to be doing any mail order at all because your customers aren't seeing the new stuff, right in front of them, maybe an indie title or a new publisher or something?
Well, two good things that Marvel and DC do, and it's the same thing from both of them. They can send me these monthly books for free to ship out to my customers. So they get to see their catalog and say, hey, here, I want that. And so they're all the time, send me emails or contact or call me on my phone, contact me different ways. Say, yeah, put me down for these new series. I want to get them. But this whole relaunch, people get really sick of that. I have people just all the time saying, "I'm done. That's it. Good jumping off point." And so that's good in that respect. The Diamond previews. That's I'm glad I don't have to read through that thing and try to predict what people want anymore, because it's just so much of the same. I mean, I couldn't tell you when the last time I saw something. Hey, this is new. That's a great idea. It's probably, I hate to say it, this is going to tell how old I am, but Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, hey, that's just crazy enough to work. You got the teenage books like Teen Titans. You got the mutant books like X-Men. You got the ninja books, so that was all the craze back then because of Frank Miller's Daredevil, and then Turtles, funny animals, Donald Duck, Donald Duck as a samurai, and so it hit the four major food groups of comics at that time and combined them all into one. That was I thought this is crazy enough to work, so I was carrying it from the first issue. And then sometimes you got to have a customer express an interest. Like had a little old lady come in and asked me if I could get her Strangers in Paradise. So I went ahead and ordered it for her. When the first issue came in, I looked at it, I think I can sell it so much store shelf. So the advertising didn't get me, but I went ahead and started carrying it. It was kind of the same thing with Bone when that came out. Now that had a good advertisement. It has Bone trying to run from the rat creatures. So he jumps up over a ravine, a big old waterfall, and he's hanging on this little bridge. Boy, those rat creatures had to be pretty stupid to follow me here. Next scene is there's the rat creatures all hanging on the same twig, and he's like, "You stupid rat creatures!" So you got to have something to get you trying. Now going back to Strangers in Paradise, I met Terry Moore back around 2000. I was up for Retailer of the Year that year, and I had to go see if I won. And that was back when they opened up a day early just for retailers. So, I mean, it's like we were so outnumbered by the vendors. It was crazy. And I met Terry and his wife. He's like, "Oh, I got to tell you a story." That woman turned out to be his wife's aunt. She had heard her son-in-law was going to do a comic. So, being a good relative, she thought, "I'm going to support him. I'm going to go find his comic." Well, she heard it was an adult comic.
Oh.
So you can guess where she went shopping. And this is a woman you did not picture walking into an adult bookstore. I'm sure like, "Oh my God, it's a raid. The church is coming after us." And finally somebody said, "Lady, why don't you go try and find that at a comic book store?" And I'm glad she did. But I was just like, man, now that's a dedicated relative who's going to some place that she would normally never go to. But hey, she's going to support her son-in-law. And it worked out well for me because I was like, hey, this is a good solid book. And I probably sold a higher percentage of Strangers in Paradise for my area than most areas around the country who had a lot bigger population to work on than I did. I mean, some stores around the country I hear about, they got more people in a 5-mile radius than I had in the entire state to work with for a customer base. So Stranger in Paradise did real well for the population in my area. So you just got to know to get on the front end. But, Stranger in Paradise, I don't know how good a title that is to try to come in on the back end because, it's kept its readers, but it was never a title that brought in new readers. And that's true of so many titles. And, you're talking about me, you think about my business going to shrink. So many of these customers are on mail order with me. Some of them I've done business with for nearly 40 years. When I get a customer, I never lose them. Give them good customer service. I'll be reliable. And, I like what your viewer posted about the buying all the porn family makes. Yeah. So
Grandma always buys the porn that the kids make.
Yeah. So it's just you take good care of your customers and they stick with you. And so I thought when I first went over to mail order, I was like, well, this will only probably work a year or two, and everybody will wither away, go and buy elsewhere. But speaking of paradigm, there's been another paradigm shift in the way people buy because they don't go out and shop so much anymore. People are buying online a whole lot more. Amazon just closed all 75 of their brick and mortar bookstores nationwide. So things are shifting kind of more back to buying online. And so in a way, I had good timing. Now, if I'd tried to do this 10, 20 years ago, it would have been a bust. I don't think people would have shopped with me and they probably would have left. Now they're like, yeah, that worked out well. And it's amazing because I've had so many of my customers who went on mail order with me have since moved from the area. And they might not have thought to stay with me if they weren't already on mail order. Like, hey, this worked out perfect. I'm already set up. And that's how most of my mail order became a mail order business. I've been doing mail order as long as I've been in business because customers would move away, not like their store. A day or two later, if they get moved, I say, I checked out the local stores. I want you to start shipping to me now. And I'm still shipping to them to this day. I mean, I've had customers I've shipped to all around the world as they move to different places.
So is the mail order business growing, or is it just like, these were the people who were here when you closed down? I mean, how do you advertise them?
Yeah, right now it's these are the people who are here when I closed down because I'm not really trying to advertise. I'm not really trying to grow it because if I get too much bigger, I'm gonna have to hire more people, and then I get back to having employees, and that's where you get into a bear. I'm not missing having employees. The people who just slack know but you're not looking, and it's I got tired of always having to go back and fix all their mistakes. It's so much easier just to do it all yourself sometimes. Because you don't have to. Well, wait a minute, he's missing on this. What's going on? Now it's a software issue. Whenever I have problems with missing books, so right now with a good size, maybe I'm still a little bit larger than what I'm really comfortable with. To be able to work on all my other stuff, but it's working. And now it's just a matter of Marvel and DC growing, giving us regular titles for people to buy on a regular basis, because it's like this is what was happening in my store. People don't care about all these mini series, one shots. Give them a regular ongoing series. That's what they want. And you're constantly having to rebuild your audience again every time you restart, every time you do a mini series. And I'm just wondering how effective these mini series that they are, because they don't have a chance to build an audience. Going back to my Robert,
I was driving
with Robert E. Howard chronology. When Conan first came out, Stan Lee said, "I don't know if we want to do this." Roy Thomas talked to him and give it a try. Well, by issue 7, they were just about ready to cancel. They were talking about, let's team up with Thor. Maybe that'll get some readers to look at it. Well, after number 7, then the sales started climbing and ended up growing into one of their top-selling titles. Nowadays, they will not take the time to build an audience for a new title.
Yeah, it'll be canceled right away, and they'll still be telling the first story 7 issues in as well,
right?
Which is the other part. I mean, I got to when James Tynion took over the Batman title last year or a year before last. It's been a while. I was like, wow, this is some really great Batman storytelling. I was in there on the first. He started up with that Joker War thing. I'm like, oh, this has just gotten so much better. And then I looked at it a second read, and I read a little further. I'm like, you know what? This is one big long story that would have been a single issue in the 70s, and it's. I found that my excitement for how the storytelling had changed was tempered by the fact that Tom King had set the bar so low coming out of it that anything was a welcome change. And I was like, yeah, it's still not that great. I was driving in Fayetteville Friday, and I was like, hey, it's afternoon. I've got nowhere to be at the moment. I could swing by the comic store here and pick up some new comics. And as I'm driving, I'm thinking, what do I want to get? I couldn't think of anything I wanted to get, and I hadn't been there in weeks. Mm-hmm. It's like, what? And I love comic books. I mean, I've got tons of them around me that I get all the time. I'm spending crazy money buying them online from crowdfunders and stuff. Speaking of which, I got boxes and boxes of this one in the mail this week. We'll be shipping out for Kemosabe. Yeah, that's his name. The man called Kemosabe from Australia. This is a book from Australia that we're going to be shipping out. Gorgeous looking prestige bound book. Now this is a block of them, but
okay. I was thinking that's a graphic novel.
Yeah, I was like, I'd love to read the graphic novel this thick, but but the art on it is just this is superhero good looking art. Now it's a pose picture, I know, but and the story idea that he's been presenting out is got people excited. I think that if more people find out about these books that are being disenchanted with what's currently in the market, these people are going to start taking off. I was like, I've told them on streams before, I said, I want all of you guys to be the new DC and Marvel in the next 5 to 10 years. Largely because that would make me the next Steve Jeppy. And I wouldn't mind that at all, actually.
They have to start hiring help.
Yeah, that's what made me think about it, was when you said you would have to start hiring help again. I was like, I'd be at that point where I'd have to start hiring people to do stuff. And I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to, fill out
I'll tell you what, I've been really disappointed with the workforce ever since they started giving out participation trophies, where all you got to do is just show up. Okay, you're a winner. And people, they don't know about how you have better rewards if you try harder. I actually had an employee one time tell me, well, if you start paying me more, then I'll start working. It don't work that way.
Not how it works.
No. You don't get rewarded for doing a bad job. And like, and I had one person when I was fired. I mean, she came in on her first day and she just would do nothing. I was like, look, if you're not going to do the job, I'm just going to send you home. Just when you go to lunch, don't come back. And she's like, well, I showed up. What more do you expect? She was outraged that I expected her to actually work while she showed up at the job. No, I'm not going to pay you to sit on your phone.
What was the description? Keep this chair at a regular 98.6 degrees.
Exactly. I mean, you just wonder. I mean, and like I said, the quality of the work I was getting from workers, it was steadily declining as the years went by. And your business is only as good as the people working for you. It doesn't matter what you sell. Doesn't matter about your product. Doesn't even matter about your customer base. If you don't have the people who are going to do the job, you're going to fail. And I just couldn't find good help. It got to be a problem all the time. And I mean, used to, it was like, okay, you find 1 in 20, you'll get a really good one. Then they get 1 in 40. That was like, shoot, it's like, who's that guy walked around with a lantern trying to find an honest man? He's trying to find an honest man.
Diogenes.
Honest days you work is what he's trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when I lived down there, you had some really good helpers. This is one lady in North Little Rock. You had a sweet girl who was working there. She had she had the little child with the spina bifida.
Melissa, she was a sweetheart.
Yeah. So I was like, she was just gone one day. I'm like, well, shoot, I miss her.
She kind of wanted to get back into doing something be kind of more to do with what her child's handicap was, and more care type of a related job. So and then so she wanted to go do some schooling for that and things like that. So you always hate to lose them, but when I'd get a good one, I'd try to do everything I could to keep. I paid so far above what the national average stores pay. I mean, I was paying very good wages for not only to work in a comic book store, but especially for Arkansas. I mean, because I remember one time I had one customer say, "Man, I'm moving to San Diego. I'm going to be making some big money." But I couldn't even afford a little studio apartment. I mean, you couldn't believe how expensive everything was. He realized he thought his lifestyle was going to take this huge jump. Instead, he was just living like a beggar. And he's like, "Man, I'm coming back to Arkansas where I can make some money that actually can have some value." Cost of living is important.
Yeah, you can make more money, but you're going to spend twice as much of it as you were before.
Oh yeah,
it's
of course the property taxes. If you buy something like my JFK building, since I sold it, my property taxes are just nothing compared to what I used to have to pay. Because I was in a very high profile location. I probably had one of the best locations for a comic book store in the country. And as far as profile and just really right out there in front of the crowd, I remember there was something called the Toonami. It was a game truck based on a Toonami block of advertising that was running on I think it was a Cartoon Channel. And so it was to promote that block of hour. And they said when they were at my JFK store, which is our own the building, they said they had more people stop to play than what they had when they were on the parking lot of Disneyland.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, they said they said they had crowds at my place like they'd never seen anywhere else. The taxes I paid on there were just outrageous. I just paid my taxes. I used to, I'd have to save my money all the way up to October, and then man, I just barely going to cover this check. Now, shoot, I've already sent in the check for personal property taxes this year. I went and got it done. Like I don't need to sit around. I'll go and pay and get it gone.
Well, the thing that would aggravate me about the JFK location was when they put in the highway divider, because I had to drive past your store and turn back around and come up because I couldn't turn left off the road anymore.
Yeah, that location probably is what started me thinking into getting into politics. I mean, there were other factors that got me into it, both with the store having to fight the Arkansas legislature when they tried to start censoring comics. And then in my hometown when we had almost poisonous water, and I was like, guys, you got to do something about this, and nobody wanted to. But up there on the JFK store, they were like, oh, well, no, that's always been. Like, no, it has not always been there. I remember when it was open. You're like, oh, no, it never was. Just tell a lie. And you tell a lie often enough, it becomes true. And I had so many problems in North Little Rock. I mean, they wouldn't let me do things to improve my store that they let the next person who bought it, who he owns a lot more property here. Yeah, he can do that. That's fine. He can do it. You couldn't, but we'll let him do it. I mean, they did some pretty things and shady things I just thought were very underhanded, and I don't know that I'll ever own a business in the city of North Little Rock again. Now as a city councilman, they're one of my neighbors. I mean, they were trying to scare me into things, trying to say, they're going to do all these terrible things to me in my business because I didn't want to let them close one of my driveways and have all the other businesses on the block use my parking lot so they could close all their driveways too. I was like, no, I'm going to fight you on that. And they're like, all right, it's going to cost you all this money. We're going to do all these things. You're going to have to put, like $100,000 in a bond. And the guy who was telling me all that BS, because that was just BS. That's all it was. You should have seen his face when he found out I was elected to the city council of Mall Bell. Now I'm one of his neighboring council people. And, You just look like, oh God, he's coming after us. Like, no, I'm not that kind of person. But having to deal with people like you guys is why I'm like, okay, somebody needs to stick up for the regular guy, because sometimes people don't.
Yeah. Now you talked about Arkansas censoring comics. I'm aware of a lot of the stories, but I'm not aware of any cases in Arkansas. What was the deal there?
Arkansas Act 858. Matter of fact, it was sponsored by a guy who used to hold the seat. I sit on the city council now. Then he moved. I forget if it was a representative or senator. I think it was a senator. But basically, he gets into the Arkansas legislature and he says, "Hey guys, I got this new rule. It's going to protect children from harm." And that's how they presented it from, and that's really about all the discussion was made about it. 92% said, yeah, I won't vote for that. Nobody bothered to read what it said. Basically, Act 858 is a display act law, and they rewrote it to say that if anybody complains about the content you have on your shelf, then you broke the law retroactively. We'll just make it
that seems unfair.
Yeah, and I've got video of him on my website because it was covered in the by the news channels, and I've got video of him on the website going, well, we think it's a good idea. What might be considered obscene in Little Rock, boy, paint a target on me, why don't you? Might not be considered obscene in Jonesboro, who was one of the people who filed a lawsuit against it over it. And so, back then, I had everybody coming after me. I had people coming into my stores trying to find something that they would consider objectionable to try to make an example out of me, which was at the same time, all the publishers said, hey, let's just sneak all this mature stuff in on the shelves and not even bother telling them what we're doing. So one minute I'm trying to defend, and then I got, the people I'm defending at my back, you're like, come on over. We'll give you some good stuff to take them down with, because, they had the attitude like, hey, banned in Boston. If Tierney loses his business, we're going to get a lot of free advertising out of it. They're like, yeah, don't ruin my life's work because you want some free advertising, pal. And it's crazy. I remember one guy was telling me he was at a DC used to fly all retailers into a convention up in had like a retailer council or whatever. They would fly certain people up to talk. And they had one in Canada one time, and this was told to me, so I was not present, but that he overheard a retailer complaining to DC about, Tierney needs to take one for the team. Well, the guy standing behind him was the owner of Keith's Comics down in Texas, who had an employee sent to jail for selling a mature comic to an adult who happened to be an undercover cop in an election year, and you can kind of go from there. He's like, take one for the team. Let me tell you, taking one for the team. And I quit hearing that kind of talk after that. They put it into a light that they could better understand that's not a good thing. So
the Keith's comic story was just that was horrifying what they did to that guy.
Yeah, for your viewers who might not be familiar with the story, he had an adults only section. He handled it very responsibly. He did nothing wrong. He had an adult customer who special ordered an adult comic, your Ratsuko, I don't know. Basically, it's a tentacle sex thing. And
Demon Beast Invasion.
Yeah, I have no idea. I never carried him because I was zoned where I couldn't even have him on my premises, so I didn't even touch him. But so the customer picks it up, takes a look at it, changed my mind, throws it down on the shelf. Now, fortunately, he didn't throw it out in the regular shelves. It was in the adults only section. Then comes the undercover cop, picks it up, buys it from the clerk, and that's the clerk they put in jail. And the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund went to bat for these guys. I remember reading a thing with Neil Gaiman talking about how he felt that maybe they overwhelmed the jury with, comic as art, and just bored them to tears. They weren't even hearing them anymore. And so once they presented the defense, and the prosecutor gets up and goes, come on, there's an elementary school right across the street. We know what's really going on here. Pronounced him guilty right away. Sent him to jail.
Yeah, an elementary school right across the street. He was playing with fire having a section that close to a school.
Right, exactly. And that's how I'm zoned, that I was too close to schools and churches. I couldn't even have them on the premises, so I wouldn't even carry them. And I've told you some of those stories I've had. People sometimes get mad at me about it. That I wouldn't fight for what the laws that they wanted to see fought. I was like, look, that's your battle. You want to do it, go and fight it. Don't expect me. I want a family-friendly store, so it really wasn't a problem because I'd already made the choice not to carry that kind of content. So for me, it was like, I can't. So it's not a personal thing anymore. Just I'm not allowed to. But I remember one time I had a guy call me up he came into my North Rock store, and he said, I want you to order me Jeffrey Dahmer versus Jesus Christ #1. I was familiar with it. I said, look, I wasn't going to carry it, obviously. And I explained to him, I said, well, listen, I'm zoned. I'm so close to churches and schools. It's just against the law for me to carry it. I'm like, they're sorry, but I can't fill your order. And so he goes, oh, okay. And he walks out the store. The next day he calls my other store, gets me again. Well, obviously this is a unique request. So I tell him word for word what I told him the day before. He goes, you're okay. I can see where you're coming from. Well, let me tell you about that guy in North Little Rock. He acted like I was some sort of pervert. I didn't even bother telling him I was that guy. It was the second time he heard something. Oh, that makes sense. I've heard that before. But the first guy to tell him something he didn't want to hear, that guy was a jerk.
Now, were both your stores zoned similarly? Because they were, a good 10 to 15 miles apart.
Oh, yeah. But each one of them was real close to elementary schools. My North Little Rock store was right across the street from the Park Hill Baptist Church, where the Southern Baptists held their national convention one year. I had one come over there one time when John Byrne was doing She-Hulk, and he had that issue where it looked on the cover like She-Hulk was jumping rope in the nude. Then when the blur lines finally go away on the last page, you see that she was wearing a bikini the whole time. And this woman was getting obsessed. I about had to tell her, man, you're going to have to buy that book the way you're manhandling it. And so when she finally got that last page, realized it was all in her head, she just slammed it out and stormed out angry. So
that's the magic of comics. The things that are happening are all in your head.
Yeah, it's just crazy. How you've got a target on your back when you're a retailer. Of course, I told you about how somebody filed a police report against me for not giving away enough free comics on Free Comic Book Day. Seriously, I had a detective come to investigate me over this, and I was like, look, he thought they just dumped a whole bunch of free comics just for me, just to pass them out. It's like, dude, I'm the one paying for those free comics. They don't give me nothing free. Now, they're giving me a good deal on it. They're selling it to me at cost. So, they're not actually giving anything away, but, I'm paying for it all, but I'm, they're not making money on it, because they're obviously giving me.
And you're paying for the shipping.
Yeah. And I pay all the shipping too. So, it's a gift I am paying to give out to people. And I would put like a limit, like 3 copies per person. Of course, now you come in with your whole family, everyone got 3, but so I gave away a ton of comics. I mean, it was a huge amount. And I was always way over by every year. So that way, maybe if I ran out of the hottest ones, I could pull out these other ones from the back, and people were like, oh, wow, he's got the books nobody else has got, because it would be new again to them. And so, I'd have books I'd be giving away all day. Then there was a chain store in the area by the name of Hastings. Well, Hastings would let you come in and, I don't even go. I had people come in and get angry that they just couldn't grab the most expensive book in the store and walk out with it. Like, what? It says Free Comic Book Day. I'm supposed to be able to grab what I want. It doesn't work that way. And
I remember Hastings.
Yeah. And Hastings, what they would do is they'd take all the free comics, just throw them out on the table, say, grab all you want. 20 minutes later, they didn't have any comics. I was giving away books all day to everybody who walked in the store and everybody that came in with them. I mean, sometimes I think they were grabbing winos off the street. Hey, buddy, hop in the car, ask for 3 books. I'll tell you which 3. And, this guy, they gave away just a fraction of what I gave away. People come in, be trashing me out, but bragging the seek and the praises of Hastings. Where I finally just got tired of it was one year, you're used to the gold sponsors, but you had to buy so many of the gold sponsors to be listed on their website. Well, they started including adults-only comics. I'm like, I can't even have these. Now you're forcing me to buy something that I have to literally throw away. I'm not a book burner. I mean, that was just, I was like, look, if you're going to force me to do that, forget it. Like, well, you won't be on the website. I'm like, fine, don't put me on the website. And that year, I mean, all the years previous, Free Comic Book Day was my biggest money loser. Because people would just come in for their free stuff. Nobody would buy anything. They just give me. They had this really negative attitude. It was really a bad vibe day. It was kind of a headache to go through. After that, all of a sudden people started saying like these weird things like, oh, thank you and appreciate it, because the guys with the bad vibe who were just looking for the gimme, I was on the website, so they didn't come in. My employees were like, oh, please don't ever be listed on that website ever again, because all of a sudden I started turning a profit. And every year I turned even more of a profit. And, so then people were saying these weird things like, thank you, and I appreciate it. I mean, it turned into such a nice thing. But I actually had somebody call up the North Little Rock police, file a complaint that I wasn't giving away enough free comics. And when the detective came in, he's like, oh, I know they're giving it to you for free because I read it on their website. It's like, look, if you go to their frequently asked questions in the back, like item 22, tiny print, it says we pay a nominal fee. Well, buddy, let me tell you, when you start talking in thousands of a nominal fee, it's not so nominal after a while. And
no, it's not.
Yeah, and he kept coming into time for time, like he didn't understand what kind of business I was. And then one time I get a call like 2:00 in the morning. Somebody's busted out my main glass. So I get down there. The alarm is going off. The cops are standing outside with their ears. And guess who comes walking out the inside of my building? That detective. And I never saw him again after that. I guess he got a chance to look around, saw the back, that there wasn't all these things that was probably going on in his imagination. I never had another problem. But and so that was finally the end of my free comic book day problem. But not being listed on their website was such a good thing. I mean, you would think no advertising. You don't want their advertising. But it's bringing in a bunch of headache people who never bought a thing. They turned it into a bad experience for not just for me and my employees, but all the other customers in here, because here are these guys in there griping and complaining, talking nasty as they're grabbing up all the free stuff from you, that you're giving them gifts. That gift's not good enough. I want more of a gift. I'll tell you how many gifts I want. I want this, I want that. Well, give me that most expensive one over the wall. Every year you had at least one person do that.
Yeah, I can't fathom what it would be like being a retailer, because you're in this rock and a hard place situation that you choose to be in, because you got customers who are like forcing you to take risks on their behalf by demanding that you order books that they don't want really anyway. They're like, oh well, now that I see it, I don't really want it. So now you're stuck with it. What are you going to do?
Right.
And you've got publishers who are demanding you take the risk on what they're producing for you.
And they're lying to you about what's going to be in the content.
Yeah. And they want you to do the advertising for their product. You're working for both of them, and you're not making the money that you should be.
Yeah, it was awful. Now, it didn't used to be that way. That kind of, when the Bill Jemas era, like around the end of the 90s and started the new millennium, that's when it just kind of twisted and turned and almost became adversarial between retailers and the publishers in the way they just won't give us good information. I remember 92, hey, we're going to kill Superman. And they really did. And they built up to it. They had a story that got people interested. I sold thousands and thousands of that book. I'm the best-selling book I ever had. And it's still valuable today. It's still collectible today. Of course, now in modern times, hey, Batman, Catwoman, they're going to get married. Number 50, have a big party. Get a cake, put on extra help because you're going to need it. When everybody comes in, look at this thing, I was like, I don't believe a word of it. I ordered it like a regular number 50 and ordered it exactly right because guess what? Didn't happen. And the news broke even before the stores knew. And so all the kids were like, that's not going to, don't even bother going in. It's a big disappointment to everybody. And so all these guys who bought all these extra books, well, they did make them returnable after the fact. But still, I feel sorry for everybody who bought cakes and had all this extra help for a complete non-event. They just will not be honest with us. I mean, it's like when Wolverine lost his adamantium. Not a hint, no clue that was going to happen. Bam, it sold out. Could have sold a ton of them, but I didn't know it was happening, so I missed out. And then for like years afterwards, he didn't have his adamantium for quite a while, and they kept teasing, is this the issue where Wolverine gets his adamantium back? And this might be the one. Oh, this really might be it this time. We're not really joking around kind of this time. He maybe will. And I mean, he's after about 20 times of teasing you, here, this might be it. And it wasn't. When he finally does get his adamantium back, no hint, no clue. Bam, it hits. Well, you don't have enough to meet demand. And, every time you have a book like that, they miss the opportunity on. Those books are never worth anything long run. Whereas that Superman, which we ordered tons and tons of, satisfied customers buy more books. Publishers don't realize that for some reason. It's like when everybody voted thumbs down on "You Must Kill Robin," 426, 427, 428. I think it was 429, or maybe it was 425. I forget the exact numbers now. But those books are still hot to this day. And the last issue, people voted online where they placed a phone call, whether Robin would live or die. And that Robin nobody cared about. They were like, yeah, get rid of that guy. And that series is always worth something. Well, that was Death in the Family. Well, now they had in the modern time, they did Death of the Family. And hey, Robin might die again. He didn't die. Never happened in any of the story. And then, like right after that story ends in Batman number 8, I believe it was, and they did kill him. Well, everybody was interested. Yeah. They couldn't get it. It's like, forget it. That book, they never got any value going. Never got any demand. Never satisfied the customers. I mean, it's like they're cutting off their foot. It just, I don't know what they're doing, but it's just like they don't want to sell books. I mean, I think they want to try to force people to buy digital, and people are like, I lost interest.
Yeah, well, they did kill. They killed Robin, Jason Todd in Death in the Family, and then they brought him back, so he's alive, he's kicking, he's fine. They killed Damian Wayne, and it's like in all the Batman titles, this R.I.P. Robin. I was like, oh, this is a really good story. I like that, but Batman realized, oh wait, I know where Lazarus pits are, and just resurrected him that way. It's like, it just took all the tension out of it.
Yeah, and now that's why I'm not going to, I'll sometimes buy books for investment books because I still have an eBay store, and so I still sell some stuff on there. And sometimes I'll buy a book like, hey, this might be something I want to carry later. I don't buy a whole lot though anymore. Like here you got all the DC main characters are all going to die in the Justice League. They're going to launch the next month
Don't
with
believe
a whole
it.
new lineup. I'm not buying any extra. I haven't had one person say, hey, I want more of that. I mean, everybody's like, yeah, it's just a con job. You can't pull the rug out from underneath people and sell one thing, do another, bait and switch. And finally, just like, hey, keep your bait. I'm done. I don't like the switch.
The DC is trying, and it's got to be a Siegel and Schuster royalties issue, because they're just trying to get rid of Superman. They're doing it in the books. Going to be Death of the Justice League. He'll be gone. It's okay. We've got Jonathan Kent now, totally different character. Don't have to pay royalties on him. And in the movies, they're talking about getting rid of the Henry Cavill Superman and replacing him with a Supergirl, who will be the last survivor. They're supposedly in this Flash movie, I guess, Superman got killed as a baby by General Zod, and this person came instead. So I don't have to pay. Movies make a lot of money. Don't have to pay that money to the Siegel and Schuster estate if Superman's not in it, and we're using a super character nonetheless.
I think you're going to find out long term it'd been better to pay the people than try to. We don't want to give you any money, so we'll just we'll shoot our foot. I just don't know what they're thinking. I think they just don't have a lot of respect for the customer base because they don't really seem to care what the customers think. They certainly don't care what retailers are telling them, because I remember when I was trying to tell them about graphic novels. I was making my own graphic novels at the store. And why aren't they doing it? Like, nobody's ever going to want those. They finally tried it and found out, guess what? There was a market. I actually did know what
there was a market. There's such a market that they will never take Watchmen out of print and let Alan Moore have his characters back.
Yeah. Poor Alan Moore. I know he felt like he got switched up on because he's like, I get him back afterwards. But he got a sweetheart deal, though, because he's still getting first print money on those things because the contract didn't have reprint royalties. And so
because it was, we're going to print it, and if we ever stop, they come back to you. Mm-hmm. So it was going to be just the one print.
Right. So, like reprint royalties, they don't pay as much as they do for the first print. Well, so to keep control over it, they're still paying him first print money. So he got a deal he couldn't have gotten if he asked for it. But he's kind of, I guess, a glass half empty kind of guy. But it's not the deal I thought I was getting, so I'm going to be mad about it. That's like same thing happened with Frank Miller, because Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns, those were the first two real graphic novels that the big guys tried. And I remember talking to Bob Schreck, the Batman editor in the 90s, and he told me that Frank Miller, who did no work for DC in the 90s, was their highest paid freelancer just off the royalties from Dark Knight Returns. He's getting first print money.
Yeah, DC will pay royalties. They are very good about that. Ethan was on the show, Ethan Van Sciver, a couple weeks back. He showed online the check he got for just Iron Heights prison being mentioned in the Justice League movie, the Zack Snyder version. It was $20,000 plus.
Yeah, and so he's got good things to say about him. Why not pay the Schusters too? I mean, just come on.
Unless there's like this retroactive backlog of like 50 years worth of royalties, and like, okay, that's everything we own plus another couple of companies. Maybe that might be the thing, but other than that, I can't imagine why you just wouldn't pay the royalties.
Yeah, and the whole thing too is like in the world of corporate lawyers, it's like when Disney was sued by the Winnie the Pooh people because they had a detective say, those guys aren't paying us fair royalties. And had the detective got a hold of their internal records that were thrown away in the dumpster. Say, they're robbing you. They're cheating you. They're not paying you what they should be paying you. And so Disney hires a lawyer. And the court says, we consider that even if it was in the dumpster, that's still company property and it was illegally obtained. So we're going to throw the evidence out and we're going to rule in Disney's favor. All right, flip side, DC Comics. So with the Siegel and Schuster people. Well, they hire a lawyer who's taking on contingency because regular people can't afford to pay the money, big high-powered lawyers want. And high-powered lawyers' contingency was he would get a piece of the pie. He would become part owner in Superman if he could get them the rights of Superman back. That's how he was going to get paid. Well, he had a fallout with an employee who steals a copy of that document when he leaves. So that's an illegally obtained document, I would think, right? Same lawyer who got the stuff out of the dumpster thrown out of court got the stolen document added to court as legally obtained. And, so they used that. And the judge said, well, since he found something wrong with them, paying the guy contingency to, and he threw it out of court based on that. So, it's kind of funny. It's like, oh, if it's Winnie the Pooh, it's okay, but it's Superman. No, it's not. It's just the exact same thing. Two completely different rulings on this, but all to the same lawyer arguing opposite sides of the same situation. I mean, it's crazy.
He didn't care. He gets paid either way.
Yeah. So just pay the guy. Just pay him. I mean, how much money they paying these lawyers? Why don't you pay the family some money? And people have more respect for him.
Winnie the Pooh is public domain now, so
yeah,
you're going to start seeing. I mean, you won't see the Disney version, but the A.A. Milne version is public domain, so you can do what you wish with that. Make new Pooh stories, as long as it doesn't look like the Disney version.
Yeah.
So we're coming up to the top of the hour, and we want to check in on what's selling and what's not. So what are people ordering and what are people canceling?
Well, people have lost interest in Superman. Batman's been sold.
All of them?
Not all of them, but almost all of them. I mean, it's really down there. I used to have people who said, "I'll take anything Superman," and I'm like, "Nah, forget that. I'm done." And I don't have anybody who buys all the Superman anymore. Batman, ever since the fake on the wedding, that's been kind of dropping. It's literally dropped half its readers in the last 50 issues since the big 50 issue. I mean, it was growing. That was the peak, and then after that, it's just been dropping. I've lost half of my readership, and it has nothing to do with me going, all mail order. I mean, that's just people still dropping it. They're buying all these other books. Like, I'm done with Batman. They've lost me, and so they're just losing the readership there. I can't think of a whole lot that people are like really excited about right now. I mean, they were excited about the JLA Avengers graphic novel, but then that was so allocated. I guess the big online sellers just bought almost all the print run, so they could corner the market and sell them for outrageous amounts online in auctions and like that. And I couldn't get them for my customers.
See, if that was supposed to benefit George Perez, why didn't DC and Marvel just print a ton of them? Right. Because these cornered market ones are not going to help.
Yeah. So and I hate to use this Native American term, but it really sums up these scalpers cornered the market and gouged the prices, and so everybody wanted the book because it'd been out of print for a long time. They had to pay unfair prices, and George Perez, he needed the money for his medical bills, and you get that little portion of that's I think what was a 7,000 copy print run. I mean, he could have got a lot of help. But
crazy.
Instead, it was manipulated, and I've had that happen before, where they say, "Okay, we're going to allocate it." Well, some guy, I order like half a dozen copies. Some guy orders, 6,000 or 600. Yeah, okay, we're going to go on a percentage. Well, guess what? You didn't make the cut, pal, because you just ordered like 6 copies. No, we're going to give them all to this other guy.
Yeah, that's horrible. Woody said, "I can recite half of A.A. Milne's book of poems from memory, simply having been read them as a child, back before Disney ruined the magic." And I liked some of the Disney's Pooh stuff, but they've really commercialized it. Miss Rena, good to see you in the chat. Appreciate you being here. Want to get you on our show again soon, because you know what, we're a show that'll have you. Apparently, Michael, there are shows that don't want certain guests to show up on them because of things they might say on Twitter or people they like on Twitter. So I'm picking up a lot of business today. I got blocked by the same person who did that too.
Oh, but really?
Thank you. Just keep them coming. Where's my calendar? It's right here.
They gave you the Will Smith Academy acceptance slap, huh?
Yes, they did. I am booked through the 19th of April every night, and I've got people scheduling stuff in May because they've got books coming out. So I'm like, yeah, thank you, appreciate it.
No, but watching the opening, you're picking up a lot of advertising because it's stretched to almost like 3 minutes now.
Yeah, well, I told people if you've got a campaign, everybody's got a campaign. They put a trailer on it, and it's usually a minute and a half, sometimes 2 minutes. Like, if you can get a 15-second stinger for your campaign, I'll run it at the beginning of the show. I'll do that. So I've got 4 or 5 of them there. One of them's 20 seconds. I'm like, yeah, okay, but you're pushing it. But and I'll still do that. I've tuned into shows, Mike, where it's like 15 minutes before the guys come on to talk because it's all previews to it. I don't want to do that, but if your campaign's current and active, you want to send us a 15-second clip, hit me up on a DM at Twitter at Critical Blast, and we will be, we'll tell you where to send it, and we'll put it into the rotation. Make sure you say what it is and what it's about and where to find it. You can do that in 15 seconds. It's very possible.
Cut straight to the point. Like it's
Yes,
a knife
just
fight.
cut straight to the point.
Straight to the point. Yeah, it's amazing. People want to live in a bubble world nowadays. There's only people who think and act just like them. It's like when I have my stores, any topic could be discussed. You just had to respect the person who disagreed with you. And there were times I could tell somebody was getting outnumbered, and I'd have to kind of side with them, even though I completely disagreed with them. And I was like, their opinion matters. They have a right to that opinion, and I will defend their right to have that opinion. It doesn't matter if I agree with them or not. And, people forget that. Plus, too, you grow as a person because, you learn what other people are thinking. And it'll help maybe you adjust your thinking, help you, and trying to discuss why you might disagree with them will help you defend your point. Maybe you'll learn that maybe you were wrong on something. And just so angry and shocked that happened. Yeah. And
well, she had been, as I understand it, and Miss Rena, correct me if I'm wrong, she'd been scheduled. She was scheduled as a guest, and the person came back and said, "We see that you're friends with these people, and we don't want any of that on our show, so we have to cancel you."
That's just outrageous to me. I mean, I got no tolerance for that kind of behavior where you're not allowed to have certain friends. And come on, what is this? Grade school? I mean, come on. I mean, this is not adult behavior, and it's definitely not mature in any respect or form.
I've only had it happen to me once. I had somebody scheduled for an interview, and 30 minutes before we were supposed to go live, they said, "I just got to finally got a chance to look at your channel, and I'm not sure it's a good fit."
I had somebody tell me they were going to put one of my wild stars, my new Force Majeure spinoff, on the cover of their magazine. It was a comic news magazine. I don't want to say the name of it because you know too much of the details, but
there's not that many of them anyway.
Yeah, and there were a lot more back then. Their co-publisher called me up and said, "Nah, he shouldn't have told you that. We're not going to put you on there." Well, there's other things, other battles I've had to fight over the years. I'm sure somebody's saying, "Hey, if you're going to put it on the cover, we'll pull on our advertising." So I kind of got blacklisted that way. So I didn't appreciate that. And somebody else hey, we can't take your stuff, then we're going to make sure nobody else is going to know what you're doing. I just don't like people. There's been other people that's happened to. I like, Tim Lim, where you had a certain creator calling up a publisher saying, "Hey, if you publish this book, we're going to boycott you," whatever. Come on, let people tell their stories, and let people have a different opinion than yours. I mean, you might grow as a person if you embrace the fact that there are other opinions, and there's nothing wrong with people thinking differently than you. I mean, we're all based our opinions on what we think will work best for us. And so you listen to other people's opinion, you learn out what's important to them, and you expand your worldview. And that's why I ran for public offices, because everybody needs to be represented, not just certain people who have certain connections. And I'm there to protect everybody's point of view. It doesn't matter if I think they're right or wrong. They have a right to express themselves and have their opinion known, and why they have it known. And then sometimes you have to explain to them, like, sorry, they're like, "It's your job to pay my driveway." I said I want to have it done. I was like, "No, we're not going to be spending public money on a private driveway. That is illegal. It's not going to happen." "Well, I told you I wanted it. It's your job to make it happen." Like, "Hey, did you used to call up and complain about me not giving away enough free comics during free comic book?" People get loony sometimes, but hey, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's entertaining, and let them.
I pay your salary.
That's it. Let people say what they have to say, and you got to show the respect for other people that way. And you don't always have to agree with them, but you got to let them have their opinion. And I think it gets interesting to have a conversation with somebody. I had a guy come into my store one time who wanted me to quit carrying Marvels because he heard that Stan Lee or somebody had something to do with this other guy who supported Trump, and he didn't like Trump, so he expected me to stop selling all Marvel comics in my store. And this guy didn't even buy anything from me, but he wanted me to stop carrying all Marvel comics.
Oh, well, yeah.
That's just not going to happen, pal. You're entitled to
Ike Perlmutter.
buy Marvel comics, but I'm not going to quit selling them because you don't like them.
Ike Perlmutter was a big Trump supporter, I believe.
That was the guy, yeah. That's who he was upset about. And at that time that he was talking about, Ike Perlmutter wasn't even involved with Marvel Comics. He'd already sold out and gotten his interest. I said, look, he's not even a part of that anymore. But, if you want to get mad at it, you don't want to buy Marvel Comics, that is your right. But, it kind of like goes back to people wanting me to oppose the laws against not having adult-only material too close to children. Like, look, you can be against it. I don't care. You can buy that product somewhere else, but don't expect me to fight the battles you want to see fought. I mean, it's not a battle I want to fight because it was something I had already chosen not to do before it was even made into a law. So,
Yeah.
all right, what you got there?
This is the way that works, Mike. It's like, I have made more of the thing you like, and everyone's like, yay, I love the thing. I can't wait for the thing. Woo! You got one person. I do not like the thing. You are a bad person if you do not address the fact that I do not like the thing. And this is, of course, the thing. Well, so what happens? I have made changes to the thing. Now it's thang, and it's round. That's no longer the thing we wanted. I'm going to look for a different thing. And he's like, will you buy the thing? I never had any real interest in the thing.
And that's the way it usually is. Yeah. I mean, it happens all the time. I'd had people come into my store and go, oh, wow, that stand-up's so neat. Can you special order me one? Oh, you have one in stock now? I don't want it. Never mind.
Yep. Yeah, and you have that happen all the time as a retailer.
Yeah. Yeah. People want you to
don't go changing stuff for one person.
Yeah. It's kind of a funny thing. Have you heard about now? One thing that has kind of impacted my sales lately has been the Ukraine war, and how so? That happened. It hurt sales on my Kickstarter. It hurt sales on my website. My eBay sales just froze for a while. They're finally starting to loose back up again. It's kind of weird because I was doing gangbusters in what is normally the off season between Christmas and tax return. And then all of a sudden, tax returns started coming out when the Ukraine war started. And then everybody said, I'm scared to spend $1. I don't know if I'll have another one after this one. And so now the Russians are backing off of Kiev, and people are starting to spend a little bit more money. And I just, have you ever seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
Yeah.
I just had this mental image of, the Russians' new attack plan is that attack plan B, run away, run away. Back it away. So.
Oh, Miss Rena did say that she was not scheduled to be on his show. She had approached him for an email, and he took a hit piece from his email just to spite CG. That stands for Comicsgate, and then he blocked her. So she asked him if she could be on his show, and he basically said, hell no, and told her to go away. I looked for the original tweet, and surprise, surprise, he already had me blocked. So I was like, wow, you got ahead of the game there, sir.
Yeah, that's not a really good business plan. I would think. People cannot come to my show. I don't want them coming to my show. I don't want a variety of opinions stated on my show. I guess you just want a certain group of people. That seems to be the way the industry's going right now. Marvel, DC. Okay, we only want people to buy the books we want to make. We're not going to make the books they want. In this case, it's people say, I will buy it if you make it. It's not like the thing that you're just showing. They will buy it, and they're like, no, you must buy what we tell you you're going to buy. And it's completely the opposite. They're just not listening anymore.
Imagine how much money you would not make if you had a store and you said, yeah, I'm not selling to you if you do this or that, or you believe this, or you wear a shirt sporting this person.
Yeah, I mean, I sold Reagan's Raiders. I sold Barack Obama. I sold Sarah Palin as a Red Sonja knockoff. I don't even remember what that was called. I sold Trump's Titans. I mean, I didn't care what part of the political spectrum is. If there was a customer who wanted to buy it, I carried it. But there's so much stuff I saw them trying to make that nobody would buy. And, it's not my job to make people buy stuff that people want to make. It's my job to get the customers what they want to buy. And when you try to communicate that, they're like, no, you're telling us things we don't want to hear. Go away. That's not good. You just don't close the doors of communications.
Yeah. And, I love those books because first of all, people who say, I don't want politics in my books, blah, blah, blah. I look at those books like, these tell you up front, hey, I'm a political book. And I'm like, yeah, give me that because political books sell. It's when you put down your Trump's Titans and your Biden's Titans and you pick up Spider-Man and suddenly you're like, oh, wait, it's here too? I did not expect it to be here. I did not want it to be here. This is the place I get away from it all.
Yeah. And, the markets change. Like maybe in Arkansas, a lot of Bill Clinton supporters. You have a lot of Bill Clinton haters down here too. You have both. And but the Bill Clinton
there's no middle ground.
Exactly. Yeah, it's one way or the other. You're like, oh, he's okay. Yeah, you don't ever hear that. But so many of them bought that Spider-Man where Barack Obama showed up. It was actually my number one selling comic that year. I mean, I sold a ton of it, and I got all I could. If people want to buy it, I want to carry it for you. And that book was the deadest thing I ever saw after that year. I mean, the whole rest of his administration, after that, they just sat out there. Nobody touched them. I think I had one guy who would maybe buy a certain edition if I could ever get it back in. And it's like, I'm not buying the Barack Obama stuff anymore because you're the only guy who wants it. You only want a certain thing. And, it just wasn't worth it. I'm not in business to lose money. And but that was like the hottest title one year. And then it never sold again. Things shift. Things change.
Yeah. They do. And you just got to get lucky and try to be ahead of it. And mostly it's luck.
Yeah. Well, I always said that this is an industry where if you're a retailer, you got to be wearing roller skates. But you got to keep rolling with the changes.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, we got an hour and 10. I didn't know what we were going to talk about, but we always find something.
Yeah, there's always something fun to talk about there. And always something happened in the world for some reason. And, so we're always can find a way that it connects the comic industry and how either comics affects the world or the world affects comics.
One or the other. Well, Mike, appreciate you being on here tonight. Look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks, folks. We'll be back here on another Saturday at 8 Eastern to talk comics with guys who know a little bit about selling comics. They know a thing or two because they've sold a thing or two. Kind of like that farmer's commercial, right?
Yeah. And we thank you for your
folks
support.
in the chat. Yeah, thank you for your support. Appreciate them all. And that's what I tell the people in the chat right now. We appreciate you being here because we don't have a show if you guys don't show up. We'd just be sitting here. I could just have him on the phone and be done with it. But we appreciate you being here and making this show possible. And as always, while you were here, we just hope you had a blast. Good night, everybody.